All right, this is round 4. It's time for some Modern. I'm Rashad Miller, joined by Simon Gertson. And the players are ready, so let's watch some magic. All right, welcome to round 4 of the World Championship. I'm Rashad Miller, joined by Simon Gertson, and we're going to have a good match here, but let's let the players introduce themselves.
Patrick Chapin from the United States, winner of Pro Tour Journey into Knicks.
Shahar Shenhar from Israel, 2013 World Champion.
Get a look at Patrick Chapin right there. You know, he came in second in another World Championship before, you know, back when it was the World Championship with an S, for championships.
And he wants that title more than anything else.
Oh, that's the eyes of someone who wants it. He wants something. It's got to be the title, or it's Shahar Shenhar that he wants, since he's staring at him. But there he has the reigning champion. So this is kind of like the King of the Hill table if we started it right now.
Chapin's opponent has the title that he wants to get.
Maybe that's why the death stare is happening. But here we go. Start off with some red spells. We got a Goblin guy hitting turn 1.
Yeah, Shahar is immediately revealing what he's on, and I don't think anybody's surprised to see a Snapcaster Mage on top of Chapin's deck, who's not playing Burn, but rather a blue deck. As we'll soon see, it is Blue-Red Delver.
Yeah, with the Pyromancers also, right? I
exactly.
Yeah, he's been a big fan of Young Pyromancer since it was printed. But the Burn deck from Shahar Shenhar, is this just an attempt to blindside the competition here?
Yeah, it's a deck that's definitely popular, but might not be expected in this small of a field. And you can catch people off guard. You have really powerful sideboarding options. And with Eidolon of the Great Revel and Treasure Cruise, this deck has gained a lot of momentum since the last set.
And talking about momentum, a second Goblin guide for Shahar. But, you know, maybe a little consolation for Patrick Chapin. He gets 2 land out of the deal.
Yeah, there was some good scrying there.
It's like, you know, greed. If, you know, pay 4 life, get 2 cards, they happen to be land. Who wins that?
Well, definitely the Goblin Guides. This is just... I mean, Goblin Guide is usually the best creature in the Burn deck on turn 1.
Come on, someone's got to be on the side of card advantage.
Well, you can take that side, Rashad.
Okay, well, that's not usually a side I take, but I'll play that. I'll play that role today. A Rift Bolt actually gets suspended for Shahar Shenhar, so 3 damage waiting in the wake.
That puts Chapin on a virtual 11. And if he plays a card like Young Pyromancer here, we can basically assume that it's getting killed. So another 4 damage by Goblin Guides means that Patrick Chapin won't have the time to raise Shahar Shenhar, but controlling the Burn deck is really difficult because you usually don't have the hard counters to do that.
Yeah, and he's not even able to put a creature down to trade with one of these Goblin Guides because the Rift Bolt will then instead just take out the blocker. This is a great start for Shahar. All right, so blue mana for Patrick. Let's see what he's working with. He's got a Taxian Probe. He's paying the mana. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before.
Yeah, you don't want to take 2 additional damage. You don't want to pay 2 life if your opponent is on a Burn deck. Shahar does have to reveal his tech here. He's on Mutagenic Growth, so the... That's a 0 mana spell in his deck. He isn't aiming to cast it for green, but rather the 2 life that the Phyrexian mana yields him. And we see 2 of his splash cards in Boros Charm and Treasure Cruise.
Now, do you think Pat actually has a plan here to win this game, or was that Taxian Probe just to find out what was going on in Shahar Shenhar's hand? Because they didn't get the deck list yet.
He has to cast the Gitaxian Probe first anyway to see what's up, and then It really depends. Usually you don't have much with the Blue-Red Delver decks if you don't get the momentum going that you really want. Being on the draw, no Young Pyromancer, no Monastery Swift Spear, there aren't many cards to fight back with this deck.
Yeah, so Shahar picked up a Treasure Cruise, but he's probably got all the cards he's going to need to win this game. Another attack for 4, plus the 3 damage that the Rift Bolt actually dealt. That's going to bring Patrick down to 7. He's looking at a Boros Charm, which is 4 more damage if he would like. I mean, it has 3 modes, but probably the 4 damage mode is the one that's going to be chosen. And a couple of Treasure Cruises, and he was thinking about Mutagenic Growth, and he goes for it. Spending the Phyrexian mana, so that's going to be 2 more damage, except there is a Vapor Stack that's going to stem the bleeding a little bit.
There was actually a very interesting turn because Patrick was representing Vapor Snag as well as a card like Spell Snare or Spell Pierce. So Shahar was hesitant to cast the Boros Charm, but thought, well, let's see first if the mutagenic growth resolved. And Patrick Chapin did have the Vapor Snag to save him, which is usually just a 2-of in these kind of decks. Also, I've noticed that Chapin currently does not have red mana, and if it's a Steam Vents, it's going to cost him life potentially. So we already saw that Patrick wanted to pay the life on Gataxian Probe, and we're going to see a similar thing with regards to Steam Vents.
So Shahar does take the opportunity to play around this spell, the Spell Snare, by playing the Boros Charm during his main phase while Patrick Chapin was tapped out. So Pat's down to 5, and that's pretty low when you're looking at a burn deck where about half of their cards each deal 3 damage.
Yeah, you basically don't have much choice except to raise this kind of strategy. Just think about Shahar Shenhar drawing a blue mana source or fetch line to get one, and then drawing 6 more cards in the course of this game. Not that I'm expecting it to take too long.
All right, so another attack for 4. That's going to bring Patrick Chapin down to 1 life, I believe. It looks like it shows it at 3, but he was at 5, and that would have been an attack for 4. A Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, we are
jumped down.
Yeah, we haven't done damage yet.
Okay. All right, so Snapcaster Mage jumps down, and it looks like both of those guys hit the bin. Oh, the Vapor Snag was flashback.
Vapor Snag was flashbacked. The other one traded with Snapcaster Mage, putting 4... Is it only 4 cards in Shahar's graveyard? It looks like he has done a lot more this game. But
nope, only 4 cards.
That's the impact of Goblin Guide on the early game. Now we see two Treasure Cruises in Shahar's hand, and if there's a way to lose this game, it's definitely with Treasure Cruises stuck in your hand. Shahar is on the full 4, which is a bit risky because it is not a burn spell, as any burn spell would have won the game in this spot.
So it looks like Pat may have clawed himself a little bit back into this game, but even with those Treasure Cruisers being the way that Shahar could lose the game, if this game ends up going long, Treasure Cruise can end up being the way that he gets back in and takes out these last 3 points of damage.
Almost all cards in Shahar's deck are game-winning draws. The only thing to keep in mind is that Patrick might have responsive cards. Now, I think there was an Arid Mesa, so we could just see Shahar fetching a blue source here. Yeah, it is.
Arid Mesa for Shahar.
Chapin with 2 lands is representing Remand as probably the most scary spell because it would put 2 Treasure Cruises back into your hand.
Ooh, that would be quite the setback. All those resources are going to be gone if Shahar actually wants to Treasure Cruise. He needs to remove at least 4 cards from his library, from his graveyard, pardon me. But chances are he's going to remove 5 so that he has a red left open to cast a burn spell to finish Patrick off in the same turn.
There's also an interesting decision as to whether to attack first with your Goblin Guide. The fact that a counter spell is already awful for you, but also pumps Monastery Swift Spear, means that I would think that an attack pre-Treasure Cruise is what you want to be doing.
See what Shahar thinks is the best plan. He's staring at his 2 Treasure Cruises. They're not going to change.
We can take a look at the cards in Chapin's hand here, and you see the Izzet Charm, which is one of the soft counters that his deck has available. And of course, that's one of the reasons why he passed with 2 mana up. If Shahar removes 5 cards from his graveyard, he still has to tap 3 for Treasure Cruise, and Izzet Charm would counter it.
All right, so the Goblin Guy does decide to attack before Shahar casts any spells, reveals a Lightning Bolt on the top of Patrick Chapin's deck, and now it's Chapin's turn to decide if he wants to block.
I'm not sure why Shahar wanted to reveal to his opponent that he's now has access to blue mana. I think he didn't think this turn through.
Yeah, he might have still been deciding on a pre-combat Treasure Cruise.
And then realized that it's just strictly better to attack first.
Yeah. But the good thing is Shahar has 2 Treasure Cruisers, and Chapin probably doesn't expect that. So if one of them doesn't resolve, there's probably a good chance that the second one does, or at least Shahar gets a second chance.
We do see a chump block here, and that's because Chapin is on 3. If he goes down to 1, his Scowling Tarn becomes unusable. So that way, he wouldn't even be able to use the Is It Charm to counter Treasure Cruise. If he had a Spell Pierce, that would be a different story. But this basically shows Shahar what's up, that Chapin really needs that point of life to sacrifice Scalding Tarn. And we've seen a Lightning Bolt on top of Chapin's deck, which is definitely going to deal with Goblin Guide next turn.
So do you think that there was any benefit to, if he, as Shahar is casting a Treasure Cruise right now, the actual sacking of the Scalding Tarn prior to an attack and then maybe skipping an attack for that turn, putting Pat at 2, forcing him to go down to 2 before he has the ability to chump block with his Swift Spear?
No, the problem is that then the Swift Spear becomes pumped by the Is It Charm. So the prowess trigger would have made it a 2-3, and your attack would have basically not been possible. I think that the correct play would have been to hold the Arid Mesa, not revealing your hand until the last moment.
Right. Right,
Okay.
well, smoke has settled. Patrick Chapin's at 2 life, so there's a lethal Goblin Guide on the battlefield. Now, we know he has, he doesn't have that Lightning Bolt anymore because he shuffled it away from the Scalding Tarn, and he did not pick up another one, but there is a young Pyromancer, so that's going to potentially make some blockers for this Goblin Guide.
Yeah, this is an incredible turn of events for Chapin, and that's because Shahar needs to top deck a fetch land to even cast the second Treasure Cruise in his hand. Of course, he can still just draw a burn spell and win, but he is holding a dead card, which usually never happens if you're facing burn.
Right, and speaking of Treasure Cruise, Patrick Chapin just cast one of his own. Not only does he get 3 cards, but he gets a 1/1 elemental token for his troubles. I'm sure we're going to have a nice, pretty, not so shiny, very red, and elemental token to hit the battlefield pretty soon. Right now, that die is doing a good job of doing it. There we go.
Once
Beautiful.
again, Chapin representing counter magic but doesn't have it. His Gitaxian Probe is definitely going to cost a mana here. And Thought Scour, of course, no board impact whatsoever.
Well, he gets a token out of it, Thought Scour.
Now with Young Pyromancer
Yes.
active, yes. And that's it's not a fetch. If it had been a fetch land, we would see a Treasure Cruise for 5 and no counter spell from Chapin. A tap Cement is pretty much the worst draw imaginable, and Patrick knows that this draw step could be the deciding factor in this game.
Right, so Patrick Chapin's still at 2 life, but is time running out for him? Does he need to get on the aggressive? He doesn't really have a board stake that can do that for him.
His deck needs to raise his opponent, and that's super tough against Burn, but he might be on his way to do that. I love the decision by Shahar not to attack with Goblin Guide. I think a lot of people would see my opponent is on 2 life, I definitely have to attack, but you would only be dealing with a elemental token, whereas here it definitely means that a Young Pyromancer is unlikely to attack.
All right, so passes the turn back to Shahar Shenhar. Let's see if he can find some magic off the top, and he just passes the turn. It looks. Oh no, that was still the same turn that he passed, and now it's Patrick Chapin's turn. He picks up a Fork Bolt.
Okay, I think we might be entering lethal range here. I see Lightning Bolt, Forked Bolt. So that's already 8 points of burn that Chapin could just fire off. That's not exactly lethal, but with the help of a Monastery Swift Spear, maybe just clear the Goblin Guide out of the way, you would have 4 base damage and then Monastery Swift Spear plus whatever other spells you can cast. It's possible that Chapin is one red mana away from winning this turn, but he's very, very close. And this could be the deciding factor, given that Shahar only needs to draw a burn spell with the hand that Chapin currently
and that's
has.
definitely what's going through Chapin's mind right now. He gets to cast a Gitaxian Probe too, as well, to pump his Swiss Sphere. Shows him the second Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, a mountain would have been a great draw here. So we're currently at 6 points of power. This is going to take out the Goblin Guide because blocking Monastery Swift Spear saves more damage than the
7, and
All
there's
right.
3 more, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
That's 11.
Chapin gets there.
He's making sure to double
4.
check, triple check. He's like, yep, because this bolt basically does 4 damage. And
Exactly.
That's going to go
It's
from
exactly
7 to
lethal.
11.
And that's why Shahar scoops it up here. 4 damage from the creatures that were on the battlefield, Monastery Swift Spear, and 3 spells.
All right, so Patrick Chapin leads 1-0 over Shahar Shenhar, and it was looking pretty bleak for him. But you know what? We're going to show you some more magic after this.
Stone bricks. Like actual mountain.
Ultra Pro is the place to go for all your Magic accessories. With card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios showing off the best Magic art, Ultra Pro is the standard in safe storage. Visit ultrapro.com for more information.
Friday Night Magic expands to all formats starting in 2015. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts at Friday Night Magic. Check out your local store for details, and remember to tell your friends Friday night is about to get even better. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
All right, welcome back to round 4. We're going to take a sneak peek, little look in at the match between Josh Utter-Layton, who's playing Jeskai Ascendancy, and he is up against Sam Black on Birthing Pod. This is still game 1, so long ones. Usually a lot of long ones with Birthing Pod.
The matchup is Sam Black with Birthing Pod against Josh Utter-Layton, who you might think could be on Blue-Red Delver, but it is actually a Jeskai Ascendancy combo, and that's pretty much a new version we're seeing this week, which only relies on Fate Stitcher to combo off. No green mana, no green creatures, which did make the matchup against Blue-Red Delver so bad.
All right, and we have some results from other matches going on in the feature match area. Sean McLaren leads 1-0 over William Jensen, and Raphael Levy leads 1-0 over Yvonne Flock. So the board states here, they're pretty land heavy, as we don't have any non-land permanents for Josh Utter-Layton, and we have 2 non-land permanents for Sam Black. One of them's Birthing Pod, so that's pretty good. The other one's a Restoration Angel, and that's probably going to threaten Josh's life points.
Yeah, just from this board state, Sam is definitely threatening a lot of things. And the amount of lands, on the other hand, that Josh has is pretty good for him because he's threatening to just go off with the Jeskai Ascendancy. Now, on the very left-hand side of his lands, you see a Fairy Conclave. And that's actually part of the combo as well, because it gives you a creature in the turn that you want to go off.
Exactly. So Restoration Angel is going to attack for 3, and a Path to Exile is going to get rid of that guy. So not only does that save Josh 3 life, but it also gets the creature off the board so that Sam doesn't have anything to activate his Birthing Pod with. Josh has a handful of cards. He has a couple of, looks like he has a couple of probes. He has a Jeskai Ascendancy. He has a few land. So not quite there. You know, he doesn't have a winning hand just yet. But he's got a lot of cards and he can get there. And if he has a healthy enough life total, he should have the amount of time it takes to assemble the combo.
And with the Jeskai Ascendancy in hand and Fairy Conclave on the battlefield, he really just needs to kickstart this, maybe with a Treasure Cruise or a Dig Through Time, to just ensure that he'll be able to keep going. Now, the thing I'm a bit scared about is the fact that Linvala, Keeper of Silence, shuts down the Jeskai Ascendancy combo deck,
Right.
but we can actually see that it's in exile here.
Oh, took care of that guy pretty quickly. I guess it's a gal.
Otherwise, I would have expected Sam to just try to get that onto the battlefield as soon as possible. Another advantage of not having the green creatures in your deck is that you have space for Path to Exile.
Yeah. So Sam just flashes Josh 2 Abrupt Decays from that Gataxian probe. So maybe he's not going to be able to go off anytime soon.
Yeah, how do you play around that if you're a Jeskai Ascendancy?
You need 2 extra instants?
That's going to be very, very hard. The creatures are probably your least problem. Fate Stitcher and Fairy Conclave aren't going to die so easily against Pod, but your Jeskai Ascendancy is just not safe.
Right. So a Dig Through Time is going to look at the top 7 cards of Josh's library. He sees a few Fate Stitchers. Now, these other cards go to the bottom of Josh's library, so no fear, they're not getting exiled, and there isn't the benefit of them going to the graveyard. But it looks like he wants one of those Fate Stitchers, and he's going to rebuy his dig through time through the first one.
Yeah, if you find another Dig Through Time in such a board state where your Pod opponent clearly has troubles finding cards to even fetch for, to even search for, you kind of want to play the control game. I'm just not sure if Josh and his team have really put something else into the deck to actually win with.
Meanwhile, Sam Black starts a game of bingo up in the upper right-hand corner of the game. That's actually a note-taking method. It's actually very popular amongst a lot of Wisconsin players, which is where Sam Black is from. Adrian Sullivan has done that a lot, where you look at a card, you make a grid of 15 slots, and assuming that you have 4 of each of the major cards, each slot is a 4-card spot. So if you see a card that's a 4 that you think, oh, this deck has to have run 4 of those, you put it in the square. If you see a card that you think they may only have 2 or 3 of it, you split the square in half, and then you write, the card.
And so you really just gather more and more information that way.
Right. I mean, you effectively can come up with your opponent's entire deck a game and a half. All right, so we will keep you guys informed on that match and all of the other matches in the feature match area. But right now, our main match is ready, and we're going to go back to Patrick Chapin playing against Shahar Shenhar. All right, Chapin mulligans to 6 this game, which is never good against a red deck. And you know what else isn't good against a red deck? When your opponent starts off with a 1-power haste creature.
It's not a Goblin Guide.
It's true.
We can say that much. It's not, but it's not necessarily worse than a Goblin Guide. This time it is because it only dealt 1 damage.
Right.
Getting exiled by Magma Spray, which is even a nice interaction against the treasure cruises that Shahar wants to resolve.
All right, there you see Shahar Shenhar's stats. Quite impressed for the young man that he is. Only 21 years old, won over $100,000 already. He's also the reigning world champion, so he has won this tournament before. 6 GP top 8s. That's a lot. Still hasn't gotten a Pro Tour top 8, but, that doesn't really stop you from being one of the best in the world.
He has a couple of years to rack up those Pro Tour top 8s. Now, Shahar does have an Eidolon of the Great Revel, which he thought quite a long time about. Now, this is probably the best moment to play it. It is definitely going to deal damage to your opponent. I'm not sure if Shahar wants to have this on the draw if the game goes into game 3.
It doesn't seem like a very aggressive creature when we looked at the other creatures there in Shahar's deck, but it does serve a great role, especially against decks that want to cast a bunch of spells. But Patrick Chapin's spells, most of them will just kill the Eidolon.
Yeah, but they will also cost 3 or less.
Right.
So in the worst case, you deal 3 damage to your opponent and get a card off him, which is strictly better than just having cast Lava Spike, for example.
Yeah, but sometimes it feels really nice when you play an Eidolon of the Great Revel against a deck and you just know they can't kill it, and you know the only way they can really proceed in their game plan is by casting quite a few spells that cost 3 or less.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this isn't one of those cases, but I mean that's the ideal case, as that Eidolon gets burned down by a lightning bolt.
So that's exactly what happens here. Putting the second card into Shahar's graveyard, 7 visions to follow it up. Now, Eidolon of the Great Revel is also incredible against Jeskai Ascendancy combo and against Storm combo.
Exactly.
And I've heard some rumors about people playing Storm combo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised after seeing a burn deck here. Doesn't seem like quite the deck that one of the top 24 players in the world would be playing, but sometimes that's not what it's about. It's about making a deck choice and not about outplaying everyone. All right, so turn 3 for Shahar. He's looking at the Goblin Guy that he just picked up, and that's what's going to come down. And it has a buddy, a Monastery Swift Sphere.
Yeah, it's better on turn 1, but it's definitely great on turn 3 still. Now, Threats of Disloyalty, I'm not so sure if the creatures that are available there are actually what Patrick wants. It does appear like a card that you just bring in because it's better than something else.
Right. It seems just good enough, or at least better than whatever bad card, something that probably costs 4 or more that's sitting in the deck and you just know you're not going to have the opportunity to cast. Because right now, it does effectively remove one of these creatures, say the Goblin Guy. But the Threads of Disloyalty is very good when not only you remove the creature, but then you have the opportunity to block with it to get card advantage from it.
Exactly, and Chapin has some reactive spells that he doesn't necessarily want against burn on the draw. It's also very possible that he just says that Gitaxian Probe is too expensive because you don't want to lose the mana, or no, you don't want to lose the life, but the 1 mana is just very expensive.
All right, so Threats of Disloyalty goes and takes the Swiss Sphere.
Once again, the graveyard count is not really high for Shahar here. That's due to the magma spray, but also due to the fact that he has been playing creatures, but not really done much more. So the Treasure Cruise is not really looking like the Ancestral Recall that we are used to, but a rather clunky card in his burn deck.
All right, so Shahar is going to go on to his next turn. He's holding on to some burn spells. Probably wants to attack with this Goblin Guide at least. So the Goblin Guide is going to come in. He's going to show another Lightning Bolt off the top of the deck. Shahar quickly writes that down. He's getting a lot of information from this Goblin Guide. Not really the primary goal of playing that card, but it's a nice little added bonus. And there's a Lava Spike straight to the dome because it can't go anywhere else.
And that's because Shahar had a great draw here. Lava Spike and Boros Charm complementing his mana perfectly, bringing his opponent down to a much more manageable life total, while also fueling the Treasure Cruise for next turn. So now, does the Treasure Cruise resolve is the next big question.
Well, I don't think Shahar is going to care whether or not it resolves because he's just going to run it out there. I can't see, is this a situation where he actually evaluates the situation if his Treasure Cruise can resolve, where he's facing the now untapped Monastery Swiss Sphere? He has to just run it out there, right?
Yeah, he has 5 cards in his graveyard, so currently it does cost his whole turn to do so. And if the Goblin Guide enters the graveyard here, and his opponent taps out, then
this is
things are looking a lot nicer. But I understand that Chapin really wants to race here, and this is his opening.
right. But now this is also Shahar's opening, but he just doesn't care. He's going to show him a Lightning Bolt. Doesn't even need to take a cruise. And he ties it up at 1 apiece.
I think he was favored game 1, but this time it actually worked out.
Yeah, that game 1, I didn't think that Patrick was going to be able to come back in that first game. He was down at the same situation. Pat was down to 2 life, and that's the scariest situation you ever want to be against a red deck. All right, we are going to take another look in on Josh Layton and Sam Black, and it looks like this is still game 1. And it looks like Plan B is in effect for Josh Layton, as we see a couple of Fairy Conclaves tapped and in the red zone. Black's down to 11, Josh Layton at a healthy 20, which seems a little odd, especially at this stage of the game with Sam Black with quite a board state here.
Yeah, this is a very interesting game. Now we see a response dig through time, which just is gonna trigger the Ascendancy again. So Josh is nice enough to visualize the stack here. Now, and the Murderous Cut is gone from Sam's hand as far as I can tell. I don't think that he has more. Also tapped out now. So it's much more likely that Josh is now going to be able to go off in some sense. Oh, look at that library.
That's not much of a library. He's going to get to the point where Dig Through Time becomes a tutor slash draw 2, well, tutor for 2, and Vampiric Tutor for 1, and stack the rest of your deck.
Yeah,
that's a good feeling sometimes.
So that's actually already the case because there's 6 cards remaining. And the question is, are there 6 cards remaining and then 5 more being put back with Dig Through Time?
Yeah. All right, so now looks like the Abrupt Decay is resolving right now. And something weird is going on over on Sam Black's side.
Oh, he's just taking his time. While his opponent is busy figuring out his combo, he's figuring out his opponent's deck.
Just sorting Josh's sideboard. There's nothing else to do. You got to keep busy. He probably doesn't have enough cards in his hand to flick around, so...
We should mention that players will get Modern deck lists, but only after the first round of Modern, which is this one.
And this is still game 1, so the most information, the more information you can get, especially if you happen to lose this game, the better off you are, because now you have perfect information.
Yeah, all right, Rashad, this is really, really key here. We see a remand, and that has to be targeting the Gataxian Probe itself.
Yep. Right.
It wouldn't make much sense to try to remand the Abrupt Decay. And that, of course, triggers the Ascendancy again. Now, the remaining Gataxian Probe is only a sorcery, so there's not going to be responding to that. It does look like Fairy Conclave Beatdown is the plan B here.
And Josh also has a Lightning Bolt, so he can use that last bit of mana to generate 2 more mana, give his Fairy Conclaves another +1/+1 each, and deal 3 damage to Sam Black. So I believe that the reason the life totals are like this is because all this damage was dealt in this turn.
And Josh is generating extra mana with the fairy conclaves. So at least blue mana is not the issue here.
And he picks up, looks like was that a Thought Scour?
It was. So you just thought Scour with the help of the conclave. These could just grow enormous, and he could win with an Abrupt Decay on the stack.
Now, we saw 2 Abrupt Decays in Sam Black's hand when we last left this match. So it looks like this was a situation where Sam tapped down to a low number of available mana and only had the mana to do 1 Abrupt Decay. Maybe Sam felt a little bit safe, but turns out that Josh had enough instance to get quite a bit of value out of this.
No, this does seem a bit weird. It might actually have been a Gavany Township activation, but that seems
It does look like that.
But that doesn't seem like what you want to be doing against such a combo deck. If you're really holding 3 answers to what your opponent is doing, we don't know what the Murderous Cut did. I would assume it probably got rid of a Fate Stitcher.
All right.
Yep.
Well, so those 2 Fairy Conclaves, they get the job done in response to an Abrupt Decay, which Sam Black thought, Abrupt Decay is uncounterable. You can't stop it. It's just going to destroy your Jeskai Ascendancy. What are you going to do about it? Well, just going to win the game.
Yep. Josh showed him.
All right, so now we are ready for the exciting Game 3 between Patrick Chapin and Shahar Shenhar. Both players, looks like they kept some healthy hands. We'll find out if there are any mulligans. But right now, Patrick Chapin leads off with a fetch land. Looks like an Arid Mesa. Shahar went down to 6. Chapin gets to keep his entire hand. And looks like Pat's searching for a special land. Basic Mountain. Must not be a lot of those in his deck. Looks like it took him a while to find that. And the red spell of choice is going to be Monastery Swift Spear.
Yeah.
It's going to get in there for 1.
So now we've seen during the whole match Patrick be very aware of his own life total. He basically never used the option to pay 2 life when he had another option or when he had the option not to. And this time he is on the play with an aggressive start. So now it's up to Shahar to kind of break surf here.
Yeah, we see that a lot in the formats that do have these fetch lands, is what we call them, where usually it's either because you're fearing some type of non-basic land destruction, or against any of the red decks in any of these formats, it's because you just don't want to take the damage. Monastery Swift Spear comes down for Shahar Shenhar, brings Patrick Chapin down to 18. Game's still early. A lot of manageable life totals, a lot of manageable creatures. Lightning Bolt's going to manage 1 on one side. It's also going to pump the Monastery Swift Spear for Patrick Chapin, but it looks like Shahar gave him the hold up.
He does have a mutagenic growth, so he's able to save his Monastery Swift Spear, even if it's quite expensive. Shahar has declared that he is going to be the aggressor no matter what, with his play of untapped Steam Vents, take 2, attack for 1, where his opponent was clearly in the aggro seed. So I'm kind of scared about Shahar's life total now, that mutagenic growth has also taken 2 life from him.
Right.
He kind of needs to get rid of these creatures.
Right. So it looks like Shahar may indeed have to switch roles in this game, because not only did he bring his life total pretty low, and it's getting even lower.
The card I would love to see here is Arc Trail, but Shahar does not have that in his sideboard. I think that's even better than plans of Electrickery or Forked Bolt, because the 1-2 punch is just so valuable. Searing Blaze, of course, a good answer as well to creature decks.
It's a very aggressive answer, though. It's an answer best suited when you're the aggressor.
Yeah, which is what Shahar
really wants.
Shahar
to be.
doesn't have an alternative, really.
And there we see the Searing Blaze in Shahar's hand. He's going to attack with the Swift Spear first, and before damage, he's going to take out the opposing Swift Spear, which is also going to deal damage to Patrick Chapin. But Patrick still has a Delver of Secrets laying in the mist, and 3 damage, that adds up, especially with Shahar only at 12 life. Patrick's going to look and show a spell appearance. So there you go. We have a 3/2 flyer now.
Another very important draw step or upkeep. We've seen these games really hinge on a single draw step, and this time it's Patrick who gets to flip his Delver of Secrets for the first time this match. And even though he lost the Monastery Swift Spear, I can't help but feel that if he gets rid of his opponent's creature, there's not much that he has to be afraid of.
And
from that
there
point
it goes. It goes down to the Is It Charm to 2 damage mode and attack for 3. And Shahar's kind of on the back foot. He has a burn in his hand to get rid of this insectile aberration, but that's not really what he wanted to use that burn for.
No, but this is the latest point in the game where he can say, all right, I'm not winning by racing. Let's save some damage here. I'm already down to such a low life total that I can't afford to take any more damage. And you aren't out of it because of Treasure Cruise. Treasure Cruise allows you to play not control, but a control-ish game. Even the Eidolon of Great Revel on the draw.
Right, so Lightning Bolt takes out the insectile aberration. Eidolon of Great Revel hits the battlefield after, so he doesn't take the damage. And he's sitting on a long treasure cruise to round out the curve, if you would. Patrick needs to read the card just to make sure when and how he's going to be taking damage, because we know he's going to cast spells. And the first spell is a Monastery Swift Spear.
So Shahar really got Chapin here with that Eidolon, because Chapin did not have any of the answers that you would want to have against this creature. Now he's forced to play a Monastery Swift Spear and try to maybe block the Eidolon and cast a spell to pump it. But that's super risky, because if Shahar just has a burn spell, then what are you going to do? On the other hand, Shahar has to be very careful not to get locked out of the game by his own Eidolon trigger.
Right. Well, at least Treasure Cruise gives him a way to replenish his hand without falling under the 3 mana.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's because it's so fairly costed at 8.
Yes, it is fair. 8 mana is a lot. That is a lot of mana, unless you remove cards from your graveyard to pay mana for this spell. Delve. 2014.
So the Eidolon, I don't know if it's ultimately going to be in Shahar's favor here, but it definitely changed the dynamic of the game. And you see how long this decision took.
I think Shahar may just be looking to get 4 damage out of this Eidolon and then throw it in front of something. I mean, is that a play that you really want? Because he is looking to block. He's looking to block. He's looking to preserve his life total. If you're able to get a few damage out of the deal, is that a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, clearly damage is a good thing, but it's also going to damage you. So that's really the important part here.
Well,
All right.
Shahar has taken 0 damage from this Eidolon so far, but I think that's about to change.
But look what's going to happen here.
Yeah, this is real. Now I'm scared. I don't get scared easily.
That's a brutal mutagenic growth. On the other hand, 2 more life for the Phyrexian mana, and then the 2 more damage from Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Yeah, Shahar's going down to 4 from this mutagenic growth just to save his Eidolon. So
I think, Rashad, that Patrick Chapin is playing a game where he wants his opponent to be locked by Eidolon of the Great Revel.
But why do you save your Eidolon if you're a Shahar? Why do you use 4 life to save Eidolon of the Great Revel?
Yeah, his hand suggested that that's what the mutagenic growth is for, but
Okay.
I agree that it was not a winning play. But because you take 4 damage, you would have taken the damage anyway, but you actively wanted the Eidolon to die.
Okay.
Which is actually why I was surprised to see it after boarding.
All right, so Treasure Cruise. He only has to pay 1 mana for this cruise. Must have got a nice discount from, some discount website. Draws 3 cards, doesn't have to take damage. But most of the spells he's going to draw, they're going to be 3 or less, because that's the nature of his deck. We're looking at 3 spells that will each deal 2 damage to Shahar Shenhar if he casts them, thanks to his own Eidolon of Great Revel.
Yeah, and the mana costs on these cards are really low, which is not good for Shahar.
But he has to use them. He can't win this game without casting spells.
And Chapin knows it.
Right.
Chapin is a control player at heart. He knows that if he just waits out this game, there's no way he's losing.
All right, so there is a young Pyromancer. That's going to deal 2 damage to Patrick Chapin. I don't think he cares too much about that. Just the fact that now he has 2 creatures that are able to attack is going to be a big deal.
He's on a quest to deal 1 more point, 2 more points to Shahar. 1 more if he sacrifices that land, which is unlikely.
Right, there's a Electrolyze sitting in Patrick Chapin's hands, just waiting to deal the final points of damage. But Patrick's down to 7. If for some reason Patrick gets down to 5, that's no longer a win condition. Don't see that happening with the board state right now, but Shahar is probably thinking that. How can I deal just a few more damage without taking damage myself?
Yeah, but currently Shahar needs to either get through with his Eidolon, or he needs to cast spells, and he isn't in the position to cast spells, at least from what I'm seeing here.
Now, Boros Charm does give him the ability to gain some life at the cost of 2 life. So,
yeah, that doesn't sound like a good exchange.
So if he's able to get more creatures on the board and able to give him lifelink,
he currently
have enough life to do
he's
that.
just restricted in the amount of spells he can cast unless Patrick allows him to lose the Eidolon. And he can't attack because Patrick Chapin can just do the math, take 2 damage, knows he doesn't die because he has 5 life. There's no way he dies because Shahar would be needing to cast spells, obviously. So I think the lock is nearly assembled here. Another Rift Bolt, another card that would take 2 life off him. Do you see this tiny grin? I think Patrick knows what's up.
well, Rift Bolt won't do it because he would just die during his upkeep. Yeah, Patrick knows that he's locked. I think it was that mutagenic growth.
Yeah.
Locked himself.
And even the Eidolon, like just having the Eidolon in game 3 on the draw, I'm not sure about. But saving it with that growth, even though it looked like the obvious play, I think was not something that you could afford.
Yeah,
to.
I feel like that Eidolon needed to die one way or another, and if you are in any way trying to make it not die, that's got to be wrong. It's obviously if you only have 2 cards in play and 1 creature on the battlefield, and one of the cards can only target a creature, it makes a lot of sense that that's what it should do. But it turns out that it puts Shahar in a very peculiar situation for life with a card in play that every time Shahar casts a spell, he takes 2 damage. And he's up against Patrick Chapin, who's playing a blue-red Delver deck, which has a lot of spells that on their own deal 3 or 2 damage to Shahar. So, not in a good shape. I don't see how he's going to be able to get his way out of this, but Shahar is thinking. He's figuring it out. He's doing some math. Counting by 2s down from 4.
We got to look at his hand there, and every single spell is problematic. Fetching for white source is problematic. Against a player that's not Patrick Chapin, there might have been an opening to lose the Eidolon and make things work again. But Patrick, I think there was like a mental fist pump when the Eidolon hit the battlefield, and you could see it unfold in the next couple of turns.
Okay, I have a question now. What if Shahar just doesn't do anything? Just doesn't pass, just doesn't cast any spells? Because Patrick Chapin has to be the aggressor. Now, 1, with this attack, he's given the out of killing his own Eidolon, which then unlocks him. 2, if he just doesn't ever attack,
Yeah,
then
but
they're playing this waiting game.
Shahar is actually behind on board, even though it might not seem like much. Chapin is threatening 2 points of damage here if he points the lightning bolt to Shahar's face. And then Shahar is going to be out of outs. Simply because if he responds to the lightning bolt, he's dying from his own Eidolon.
Right, so the lightning bolt is not sure whether it's pointed. It must be pointing at Shahar.
Yeah,
I don't see any
clearly.
creatures going down. And this is lethal. This is a lethal attack now
Yeah.
because Shahar is at 1.
This is the hard lock. You have a 2-power creature that's attacking you, and a lightning bolt that's targeting you. So if both resolve, like damage and the bolt, then you're dead.
Right, so the
Your
play,
opponent is on 5, so there's no way you're getting him. Because if you cast 2 spells, you're dead yourself. If you only cast 1 spell, then you're going down to 2, but the lightning bolt is still on the stack. And it's all before damage, so the Eidolon will stay in play just as long as Chapin needs it to.
Right. So this is it. I don't think there's any way Shahar can get out of it.
This is a beautiful game. And that's what I meant in the beginning with the Eidolon just changing basically the laws of Magic. It's better when it changes only the laws of Magic for your opponent in a relevant way. But look at Shahar. He's
All right,
like
Shahar's he's not a quitter. Never quits. He's gonna sacrifice his fetch land, his Scalding Tarn. He's gonna get a land. Looks like he's looking at a Sacred Foundry. Is he gonna put it into play untapped? Is this a suicide play? Are we just seeing how creative we can kill ourselves? Because you have to think that if he actually has a line, that he's going to get a land that comes to the play untapped. So he gets the mountain instead.
Yeah, I'm intrigued now.
This just doesn't end well.
So we have a Searing Blaze, targeting Monastery Swift Spear.
Oh, well, Patrick Chapin's at 5. This Searing Blaze is going to put him to Boros Charm, Death, or even, well, he doesn't have Boros Charm mana.
But Shahar is at 1. Shahar is not casting spells. Shahar is not casting spells as long as Idol of the Great Revel is in play. And Lightning Bolt is on the stack.
If he had an instant, he could have responded to the Eidoline's ability.
And then it triggers again.
And it triggers
there's
again.
no way out.
This has got to be what Shahar is even thinking about. He's saying
Yeah.
all these things and then convincing himself that this isn't out. And it's like, no, it can't be because this is, this then happens and this then happens. But
What I find most impressive is that Chapin looks like somebody who somehow knows his opponent's deck better than Shahar himself. He's like, I know exactly what's going on here.
yeah, and there you have it. Shahar extends the hand. He realizes no matter how that stack unfolds, he's going to lose that 1 life before Patrick Chapin can lose his 5. And Patrick Chapin wins that match 2-1. Get a look at the feature match area. And we took a... So we're going to be going over to Game 3 of Raphael Levy. And he is up against Ivan Flock. So this is the Scape Shift versus Jeskai Delver matchup. Players are tied at 1 apiece. And it's kind of the Jeskai Delver, does it have any combos in it somehow? Or is it just totally Jeskai, or is it 0 Jeskai Ascendancies in this?
It's not a Jeskai Ascendancy combo
so
deck.
it's similar to the Sean McLaren list that he has been playing in past modern tournaments.
Well, actually, it's also similar to the list that Ivan Floch played himself at GP Madrid.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we have a quite simple board state here, but we do have a Manus Rider in play.
Which is
for
a new
Ivan Floch.
addition. That's not a card that's usually being played in these kind of decks. So
Everyone saw how good of a job it was doing at dealing 3 damage to their opponents and decided, you know what? This is a reusable Lightning Bolt. I like that. Lightning Bolt with buyback, except you only pay for it once.
Ivan Floch was on Jeskai Delver, was playing 2 Guys of Saint Traft in his main deck in Madrid. So that's where he started from.
Yeah, another pseudo burn spell in a lot of these decks, where as the Geist is pretty hard to deal with, and just attacking with it guarantees you a 4/4 Flying Angel, during your combat step, and that Angel usually gets through even if the Geist doesn't. All right, so Raphael Levy just continues with the Scape Shift plan, and we had a handshake. It looks like something happened. Didn't quite get it. We didn't get the life totals up yet. Raphael was at 9 and Ivan was at 11. Looks like there was a Lightning Bolt and a Snapcaster Mage Lightning Bolt to finish.
Ivan had the backup. He wasn't losing to Scape Shift. It's interesting that these are on the same team, playing different decks. But Raph Levy is not really a Delver player, so no big surprises there.
All right, so now we're going to look in again at the Joshua Layton versus Sam Black match. And looking a little bit better for Sam Black this time around. He's got a lot more permanents in play. He doesn't have a pod yet, but a lot of times you don't actually have to have the pod to win with the Birth and Pod deck. Here's Joshua Layton, one of the few players to have played in all 3 of these championships.
So there's a Gifts Ungiven in Joshua Layton's graveyard. That's part of the sideboarding plan that these players came up with. There's actually an exiled Unburial Rites in his exile zone. So he does have a plan of potentially reanimating Elishnorn after boarding, and still draws out this game. I see another Gifts Ungiven in Josh's hand, so we'll see some more action, I'm sure.
Yeah, some long-time running tech using Gift Ungiven and only getting 2 cards, which forces your opponent to put those 2 cards in the graveyard. If one of them's a flashback reanimation spell like Unburial Rites, another one is a big fatty like Elish Norn, next turn you get to reanimate a Elish Norn and probably decimate your opponent's board. And it might be happening right now. Here's Gifts Ungiven.
And this is in response to Entombed Exarch. So Sam Black really with the perfect curve of Noble Hierarch, Sin Collector, Restoration Angel, my Sin Collector, and now Entombed Exarch, which threatens to return a creature card to your hand from your graveyard, which is not what it's here for in this matchup, but rather you want to force your opponent to discard a non-creature card.
So Josh Layton's hand must have just been decimated this game. You know, if we can't get a look at it right now. He has 2 cards. Not sure how long the game's been going on, but most of those cards have probably been exiled. We see a little exile pile over in the corner. And now looks like Josh is looking for a couple of, looks like some 1-ofs in his deck that he needs to try to win this game. But I believe the Unburial Rites has already been hit by a Sin Collector. Is that correct?
It is definitely exiled.
So Sin Collector must have gotten half that combo. So now Gifts Ungiven is just a pure value card. And now it becomes the slowest card in Magic.
But this gives us some time to talk about what his options are here. If actually hardcasting Elish Norn is not out of the question.
It's not.
It's a combo deck that just casts a 7-mana legendary creature.
And he can do that. He has 7 mana right now. That Exhumer Exarch cannot hit the Elish Norn, but obviously, if that's the case, if Elish Norn is one of the cards that Josh picks, that's one of the cards that's immediately going to the graveyard. So
yeah, so he kind of has to stall out the game to draw into this, or threaten to win the game with his combo, which is kind of difficult when a duress effect is on the stack and the pressure from Sam is so high.
Yeah, Josh is thinking, this is not what I was supposed to be doing with this Gifts Ungiven. I didn't want to have to think about this. I don't have any true gifts packages. There's no neat combos to get the cards back from your graveyard. There was just a 1-2 punch of Unburial Rites and Elish Norn.
Well, looking at Josh's team for this event, I think that they did in fact have fun thinking about all the possibilities with this kind of sideboard package. It's a great call for a small tournament like this because at first it catches people unaware, but then even if they know about it, it's kind of difficult to play around it because you don't even know if it's coming in or not. And it does present basically 2 different ways of winning the game.
All right, so the 4 that Josh has come up with is Jeskai Ascendancy, Dig Through Time, Elish Norn, and a Serum Visions.
So Elish Norn really only serves the purpose of being a card that you are definitely not getting because it would be too good on this board.
Right.
So that makes it just better, or increases your chances of getting a better card.
All right, so Sam gives him the Jeskai Ascendancy and the Serum Visions, and then sees a Gitaxian Probe and a Path to Exile. One of these cards is going bye-bye. Probably the Jeskai Ascendancy.
The Jeskai Ascendancy is clearly the scariest card when it comes to your opponent threatening to just win. And Sam does think the same way here.
Yeah,
it didn't look like Josh had a super scary hand here, but because his combo deck accumulates so much mana, he could have actually just went Ascendancy, activate Conclave, play Gitaxian Probe, untap the Conclave, use it for mana, and then the whole chain starts, which is definitely not what you want to see.
Yeah, and right now Josh Layton's down to 7 life, so Sam Black has lethal attackers on the board. Josh does have a Path to Exile in his hand, so he can stop that lethal attack. He's at least going to be able to survive one more turn. He also has a Fairy Conclave that he can block with. But looks like Josh is going to look at Sam Black's hand, draw another card to try to see if he can find his combo. I have to imagine that's what he's drawing for. He's using all of his cantrips in this turn. Is either use them now or save them for the turn that you want to go off. And he's not exactly dead right now, so must be searching for the combo.
The more mana he taps this turn, though, the less likely it becomes that he can still combo off. It's also possible that he has to use a burn spell to somehow stay alive here, which
He has a
could-
path to exile, so he could just kill, exile one of these creatures, which is more than enough to maintain, a positive life total with being at 7, and just leaving a couple of 2/2s that can attack him.
we do know that there is Linvala, Keeper of Silence, also threatening to lock Josh out of the game. And he's representing 7 damage without using any of his mana. So that is, in fact, Linvala, which does have a minor effect on this battlefield, which is that Fairy Conclave, if activated to block with, is not going to be able to be activated.
Exactly. Probably not a big relevant thing right now because I don't think Josh plans on losing a mana source this turn. He has a couple of options. He has a Path to Exile. He also has Is It Charm. Both of those can take out a creature individually.
He's actually going to start with Dig Through Time, it looks like. Something that's very important here is that if Sam had drawn an untapped mana source, he would be threatening Gavany Township. Then he can attack for 7 and forces Josh to first deal with one of his creatures.
Right.
And then he can still decide if activating the Township is lethal or if you play Linvala. And that could have forced Josh to Path to Exile the Restoration Angel to stay alive.
Right.
And then Linvala might have been safe.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Sam Black did not make that land drop. He's going to have to wait another turn at least to activate that. But I think Sam wants to win this game without activating this Gavany Township, if he can.
That's because he wants to win this turn, right?
Yeah, well, he wants to win every turn. I think every player wants to win every turn of every game. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they have to play their land and pass the turn.
So the way this turn played out should allow Josh to first Is It Charm an attacker. Doesn't really matter as long as you stay alive. Your Gitaxian Probes are going to be a bit weaker. Then you get to Path to Exile Linvala, which at least gives you the chance to combo off. And
Well, looks like first we're going to Is It Charm, the Sin Collector, just to keep his life total manageable. And then left a white mana open so that he can decide what he wants to Path to Exile a little bit later in Sam's turn, I assume. And it is the Linvala. Not only does that get rid of the Linvala, it allows him to combo off with his Fairy Conclave, but now that Fairy Conclave has a clear path to attack for the win, if he's able to combo off.
exactly. So he's basically missing the one combo piece, which he needs to find. Well, which he should try to find next turn. He really doesn't want this game to go even longer, especially now that he's on 2 life. I don't believe that there's any cryptic commands or other control cards to really save him in such a spot.
All right, so Sam Black searches out a basic land thanks to Path to Exile, so he gets something out of the deal. He loses his legendary 3/4 flyer for 4 mana, and he gets a forest. But it's a nice beta forest. Isn't it beautiful? You don't like forests?
Forests are okay.
They're the best. I don't think you truly understand Magic the Gathering if you don't have the same love for the forest as I do and the rest of the world.
You're probably right, Rashad. I'm not even going to argue with that. So let's see what the islands are doing on the other side of the table.
Well, looks like we have a blue mana, so we're going to start off with the Serum Visions. Draws a Thought Scour.
Gets to scry, more control cards in Path to Exile, another Thought Scour.
Ships them both to the bottom. He's interested in winning right now. He doesn't care about drawing this game out anymore. Doesn't want any control cards. He just wants cards that win this game.
Yeah, he needs to dig for an answer here, and that could actually be meant
You think he has time?
literally.
To dig for an answer?
Yep, that's what's happening. And the Fate Switch is still in the graveyard. If
Conveniently.
it comes to it, he does get to unearth that and basically generate extra mana with it. Jeskai Ascendancy.
Ooh, that's the card he really wants. See, what's the second most popular card that he wants? Looks like he has a Serum Visions up top, which is both a card drawer but a mana generator in combination with Jeskai Ascendancy and any mana creature, which would be the Fairy Conclave in this case.
The cheaper the spell is you're getting, the better. It's possible it's possible that Sam is lacking mana here to actually go through this. But with the Fate Stitcher, I think he should be fine.
Fate Stitcher does give him an additional creature to untap with every Jeskai Ascendancy trigger, which generates another mana.
But only if you cast cheap spells. So if you cast 1 mana spells and you have 1 Fate Stitcher active, that only means, well, that's mana neutral.
Right. But once he untaps, he can then... Does he have enough mana to activate his Fairy Conclave and do all of this?
The problem is that he already untapped for this turn.
Did he play a land?
This is...
I don't know if Josh played a land this turn. I think he might have skipped his land drop. He has not played a land yet. So he has 1 more mana available, so he may be able to do this.
Yeah, then it might come down to the last mana. Jeskai Ascendancy, down, Fate Stitcher, untap a land. And now the first... See, now what he doesn't have the mana for is to untap to untap a land, play a land, activate Fairy Conclave,
And then cast another spell. But if he finds a Gataxian Probe, he's okay. Does this help, discarding the Fate Stitcher?
I think that's what he needs to draw. Yeah, he found the Fate Stitcher, and that's also mana neutral to get out because it already untaps the land, and from then on, every 1 mana spell is going to generate mana, and all 2 mana spells are free. I think Josh Layton just got there.
Well, he has completed step 1. He still needs to draw a spell for each turn to generate the mana and draw more spells.
But his hand is Serum Visions, Thought Scour, and Izzet Charm, which all draw new cards. Izzet Charm and Jeskai Ascendancy trigger already means that he gets to draw and discard with every spell. And then even if all things fail, he gets to draw 2, discard 2 with Izzet Charm. I don't think that he's...
Well, it's looking good so far.
Here.
The engine is definitely revving. There's a Lightning Bolt on top of Josh's deck. He is getting mana. He's getting cards. He has a Izzet Charm in his hand. He has a Thought Scour in his hand. He's going to cast the Thought Scour now, and he's going to draw and discard before he actually resolves that. So he gets to draw the Lightning Bolt, get rid of this extra land in his hand, and now he's going to draw another card. Another Fate Stitcher, so even more mana if Josh wants it, and I think he does.
Well, the thing is that he's almost ready to attack for lethal with his Fate Stitcher, so he doesn't even have to go infinite or any of that sorts. He doesn't have to cast Glittering Wish for flesh, but it's just a matter of pumping his creatures sufficiently. And I believe that the cards in his hand, even without the draw discard triggers, are already killing Sam here.
Fate Stitcher is such an efficient addition to this deck. It just does it all. It's a creature for your Jeskai Ascendancy. It makes mana. It has haste. You could discard it. Comes back from the graveyard. You can't counter it when it comes into play. And then it wins. It wins the game. These Fate Stitchers are one's a 5/6 and one's a 4/5. And you know what? I couldn't even add up all of the counters before Sam Black could extend a hand. So Josh Layton, he wins that. That was 2-0. Good job, Josh, showing us how to combo off with Jeskai Ascendancy. People were saying this was a very powerful deck in Modern. We just had a Modern tournament in Europe, and it didn't have a great showing there, but in this smaller tournament, maybe this is what it takes. You put it in the hands of the best players in the world, and they just go off with it.
I'm going to be honest, we might have seen the best version, too, right now.
I think that's the best version. You don't have to play all the clunky green creatures.
Yeah, I never liked that. You play Birds of Paradise, your opponent has a target for Forked Bolt. That's not what you want to be doing.
Yeah, it reminds me of the standard version that started using Springleaf Drum. Springleaf Drum and a bunch of token generators so that you can stay red, white, and blue, and you're still able to combo off with a Springleaf Drum. And that deck wasn't as combo-centric. It was basically, I have a bunch of 1/1s and I may attack you to win, but if you don't watch out, I can combo off. Still within my colors, not messing up my deck and messing up.
And Fate Stitcher basically has the Springleaf Drum built in.
Exactly.
It synergizes with the draw discard looting trigger, and it attacks for the win because it gets haste from Unearth. It's the perfect package.
Exactly. So we're going to have an interview for you guys in a second, but we can go over how all of the other matches ended up in the feature match area. Sean McLaren, who's playing Just Guy, he wins 2-1 over William Jensen, who was playing a Power Match Ascension deck. The same deck similar to what we saw Patrick Chapin win 2-1 over Shahar Shenhar, who was playing the Cruise Burn deck. We just called it Burn, but it's kind of fueled with Treasure Cruises. A good addition to add blue to this deck just to be able to...
Small white splash, blue
small
splash.
white splash. I mean, white gives you some of the best burn spells, with the addition of red. We just saw Josh Layton win 2-0 over Sam Black. And the other match, which we kind of caught the end of, was Even Flock winning 2-1 over Raphael Levy. And that was the Just Guy Delver matchup where Rev Levy was playing Scape Shift. All right, so we are ready for the interview. So we're going to send it down to Marshall Sutcliffe with the winner of that last match.
Hey guys, Marshall Sutcliffe down here in the feature match area with Josh Layton. I was standing behind you watching you go off with that deck, but I have never seen that go off that way. How did you guys find this deck?
Well, I just started testing basically with Ascendancy. It was the newest thing and obviously like super powerful. Yeah. So I just wanted to see what I could do with the card. And I spent a lot of time building various Ascendancy decks. Like I have like 6 different versions saved on my Moto account right now. So like I've tried a lot of different things and settled on this being the right way to build it. Basically, it only has Fate Stitchers as creatures, and that's all you need because once you have an Ascendancy in play, you can find the Fate Stitchers really easily just looting through your deck. So it's basically built more like a control deck. It's not trying to just goldfish, though it does have a pretty good goldfish speed too. But it's trying to play interactive games of Magic, go along, and just be able to like dig through time and treasure cruise up, kill all your opponent's creatures, and it's really resilient. I think I don't think the cameras were on for the first game, but the first game Sam had 2 abrupt decays the whole game, and I just was able to keep him off creatures, and yeah, eventually I was able to just go off at instant speed through decay.
That deck just looks crazy. So when it comes to actually building it and then applying it to this tournament of a smaller field of players, only 24, what are the differences between maybe something you take to a GP?
Well, I think this is the exact same list I would take to a GP. Yeah, basically I think you can expect, for this tournament in particular, because the format was brand new and unexplored, people are just going to play like whatever they think the best deck is, rather than like trying to go to fringe decks to exploit like weaknesses in a metagame or anything. So I was just expecting a lot of like the top decks being like Pod, Delver, especially Scape Shift, Twin, and blue-white-red decks of like various degrees of control.
How hard is the deck to play? I saw you resolving gifts ungiven and just flying through the combo at the end, but it looked pretty tough. Is it tough to get it down?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely hard to play.
This isn't one that you would recommend for a newer player to play in their first Modern deck?
You can learn it. Like, if you want to take the time to learn it, it's not that difficult. It's just a little bit different than what you may be used to, so...
Well, I think people can learn by watching you play it here at the World Championship because you were flying right through it. Josh, good luck in the rest of the tournament. Marshall Sutcliffe sending it back to the booth.
All right, there's Josh telling you how it is. That deck is the perfect list that he would take to a GP. Interactive, not just a goldfishing combo. So I think I'm going to play it. I'm going to fire it up on Magic Online.
Sam Black just tweeted, I think they broke it.
It seems a little broken. All right, so that's enough for us. Let's find out what happened in the rest of that field of 24. I'm going to send it back to Rich Hagan at the news desk.
All right, thanks very much, Richard. Welcome back. I can tell you that the players are already heading towards the next round, so no time for us to talk other than to tell you Patrick Chapin is the last player in the building with a perfect record. He is 4-0. But we are going to head over to the video wall. It's time for our first modern deck tech. And here to walk you through it, we've got Brian David Marshall and the reigning world champion, Shahar Shenhar.